Every week, the weight of all the items produced on Earth exceeds the weight of a single person. Many of these items are, well, not necessary for human life. This excessive production is closely linked to the rise of cities and the high consumption of items that are beyond the cycles of food, water, energy, and waste. Almost the same amount of non-degradable and degradable waste is generated by cities and is eventually dumped into lands, rivers, and oceans, or burned in various places. This phenomenon is connected with globalization and supply chains. Rapid transportation, uniform quality, fast exchanges, and low production costs result in the exploitation of natural resources and environmental damage. On the unwritten side of history, farmers, livestock breeders, nomads, indigenous people, and hunters, who understood the limits of the land and adapted their lives to the changes in nature, are not given a place in history. Instead, history classifies their lives as backward, wild, disorganized, and primitive. Aristotle wrote, "One who has no need of a city is either a beast or a god." Centuries later, a Chinese writer stated, "The nomads living in Central Asia are abandoned by heaven." In the 10th century, after meeting the livestock herders, Ibn Fadlan wrote that they live in poverty like wandering donkeys, they do not worship God, and they have no reasoning. A prime example of this is in the Grand Canyon in the USA. In 1903, President Theodore Roosevelt, who visited there, said, "This is a natural wonder completely unparalleled in the rest of the world." He stated that nature could only be seen as pure and pristine without human interference, which only humans could destroy. A decade later, the Grand Canyon became a national park. Restrictions were imposed on the lands of the Havasupai and other indigenous people who had lived there for over 700 years before the arrival of white settlers. Many were evicted. In today's world, we continue to witness invasions and explicit racial and religious propaganda against indigenous people like the Bushmen in Botswana, the Baka in West Africa, the Adivasis in India, and traditional nomads in many parts of Central Asia. Their simple way of life is disparaged as backward. However, indigenous people who are well acquainted with the nature of the forest maintain the forest well. As a result, forests store more carbon. Indigenous people have been maintaining biodiversity and long-term environmental responsibility for thousands of years. The wildlife sanctuaries created by evicting them from the forest serve only a few people to make a profit. These sanctuaries efficiently transform forests into circus tents after eliminating the circus happening in the country.